I'm speaking with Celina Caesar-Chavannes, who's been the Member of Parliament for Whitby for the past 4 years. Celina, I want to take you through some of your time in politics. Let's start with what motivated you to run in the first place. You ran in a by-election first and then in the election. What got you involved?
So around the time I was doing my MBA, I owned a healthcare-based research management firm. So I was collecting a lot of data either through epidemiology studies, clinical trials around neurological conditions and the impact, scope, health services, and risk factors for these conditions. And my company would take the data and pass it off to someone on the GR side, and they would use that data to then ask government for various policies. And at the time I was doing so in December of 2013, I was doing my MBA, and there was a politics component to the course. And it really intrigued me that, hey, I could use all of that analytical business background and apply it to government. I could actually be the person that looks at the policy and helps to shape and form the policy going forward. So I thought, why not get involved?
And then there was a by-election and you stepped forward.
I did. And the course was in December of 2013, but I only became a member of the Liberal Party, and I'd always voted Liberal, so I thought, okay, let me Google how to become a real Liberal. And I became a member of the party in February of 2014. And so that's 2 months later. A month after that, on International Women's Day, March 8th, I get this email, because of course you sign up, you're a member of the party, they send you these massive amounts of emails. But I get this one that says, invite her to run. Do you know a woman who is, smart and courageous and can lead to, help lead Canada in the next election? And I thought, yeah, me. And so I replied back and I said, yeah, I'd love to run. How do I do this? Unfortunately, Jim Flaherty died, who was the member here, and I was into a by-election and lost the by-election, but knew I'd gained some tremendous ground and thought, let's win it this time around.
Okay, so you get elected in the Liberal sweep.
Yes.
You come to Ottawa. Share some of your. I want you to share some of your reflections about being in politics, especially your early thoughts.
So one of the earliest things that happened when we were there, and I think one of the most profound moments, Paul Martin came to speak. Of course, he was getting his portrait put up, and he was speaking to the parliamentarians. And he said to us, you can value what you are here in Parliament, your time here, because you could do in 5 months what it takes most organizations, most advocacy organizations, 5 years to do. And at the time I was kind of like, whatever, no big deal. And then I came out and started talking about my depression and anxiety. Months later, I published it in the Huffington Post.
Right.
It got a lot of traction, started talking to my colleagues about it. And then around that time, Jane Philpott, who was the Minister of Health, was looking for money for mental health in the budget. And I said, Jane, well, how much do you need? She said $3 billion. And she explained that it was going to be, it's not exactly what she wanted, but it'll be for people under the age of 25 to get access across the country. And I said, let's be bold, Jane. Let's ask for $5 billion. And we asked for that. And in the next budget, it was there. And it was mind-blowing that Paul Martin had said this, months before. And here I was like achieving something really remarkable in politics within the first year. And shortly after that, listening to Barack Obama speak on My Next Guest Needs No Introduction, that David Letterman show, he said that leading was about legislation and regulation, but it was also about creating awareness, shifting culture, and moving the status quo. And so on the one hand, we had the mental health funding in the budget, but on the other hand, my ability to speak about body shaming and hair and equity and justice is just as profound. And for me, those are the two biggest moments that I've
Yeah, so you were probably one of the first members of parliament, of politicians, to talk openly about depression and mental health challenges?
I think it was interesting because I was a new politician. I think politicians had spoken about it before, but to be a woman of color, to be speaking about it, and to just be saying, hey, you know, this happened and I stayed in bed, and give specific details of my struggles. I think that was what people connected to, and it resonated with a lot of people.
Right, and I look at something that the government has announced more in the last year or so, around anti-racism funding, identifying anti-black racism. My sense is you were part of that too, in terms of pushing for these measures.
Of course, and I think it's important to remember that it wasn't just me pushing for that. We had a community of people pushing for this to happen, pushing for us to ensure that we recognize the decade. And then we recognize that there are barriers that people face within our system.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can I ask you about being an MP for the riding? So we've talked a little bit about what you did in Ottawa,
Yeah.
in terms of national issues. How was, just talk a bit about that, about serving your constituents, and is that another whole layer of things you have to
That
do?
is another layer, but I think that's the best layer. Because I would get anywhere from young students coming into my office to, you know, seniors talking about various issues, young people talking about climate and environment initiatives that they wanted to help to prevent climate change, and then people with immigration issues, and, you know, church groups trying to bring refugee families to Whitby. We had a family come that had spent 27 years in a refugee camp. These are as big, if not bigger, issues that we need to process as parliament, as members of parliament, and bring those concerns, those issues to Ottawa. And every single person that came into my office was treated as if they were the only person there. But not only did we do that, we had town halls. We invited people to speak in forums, to talk about issues that were important, to talk about things that I was probably missing and perspectives that I was missing. Speaking to people who had strokes, and speaking to individuals who were, you know, fighting for individuals with disabilities. All those perspectives are necessary in order to formulate what happens at a national policy level. And so the best moments were the moments here in Whitby, being a member of parliament.
Okay, thank you, and we'll carry on in a minute.